What's up? How we doing? Crickets everywhere. We got a couple of whoops from the crowd. So thank you guys for coming. My name is Dustin Payne. It's good to have another night of Root. It's been a little bit since we've had it here in the building. It's just been busy with camp season and other things going on here, and so it's good to be back. And with me, I have a special guest, Mr. Hunter Woodring. How are we doing, Hunter?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Yeah. So I brought Hunter here just to be able to just cut it up and just have a good conversation, man. And I'm excited. It's awesome to see what God's doing in your life, and I'm just excited to be able to talk about that and talk about how God's using you and your family. Yeah, move that plant. I can't even see your face. And so it's just it's good to be able to have this conversation. Before we get started, you want to lead some prayer?
Yeah, absolutely. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for allowing us to gather and to fellowship in your name. Help us to realize what an honor that is that we just don't deserve, God. I pray that you bless this time. Pray that we can just keep our minds and eyes fixed and focused on you, and help us to learn a little bit more about you today so that we can love you more. Thank you for all you do. We love and praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
So before we get started or into the thick of it, let's start with just like talk about kind of your story and how God has used you. I know you came here before and you had a Faith and Hope Ministries and you did that. And so kind of tell us about your background a little bit.
Okay, so I was born on a rainy Wednesday. No, I saved when I was young. I don't remember the year, but I remember the moment, 12 to 14 range. Had a troubled journey through high school, I think would be good to say. Had a rocky journey and had a car accident that I definitely should have died in, and the Lord rescued me out of that. Decided to move forward all in with the Lord from that day when I was 18 years old. Wasn't perfect afterwards, but just serving the Lord through that. Ended up having started a young adults ministry with my best friend, and that lasted for a few years. And I met my wife during that time, actually through that ministry. And then I'm just trying to give the high level 10,000 foot overview here.
So you said that wreck. How did God use that wreck to be able to kind of pull you in? Because I have a similar story with my journey as well. So I'm just curious about how did God use that? Because I'm sure that was probably like one of the worst things that's ever happened to you, right? And if it draw you back to God, it could be one of the best things that's ever happened to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I was 3 or 4 days past my 18th birthday, knee deep, waist deep in sin that I knew I shouldn't have been in with a girlfriend at the time. And I was headed over to that girlfriend's house, and something that I wanted to happen wasn't going to happen that night, so I got ticked off and threw my phone. And when I threw my phone, I looked up, and I'm staring in the middle of a field, and I'm driving 80 plus miles an hour down a country road, and I overcorrect and hit a tree head on, and the Chevy Trailblazer that I was driving had a sunroof that when the truck crunched when I hit the tree, it popped out. I flew out feet first because I wasn't wearing my seatbelt. And the crazy thing is I went on a mission trip 2 years before, hadn't worn the shirt from that mission trip in over a year, and I threw it on that night after a baseball game because I was rushing to get to my girlfriend at the time's house. And anyway, when I landed with my back in the mud, I was caked in mud. So when I got back from the hospital that night, I took the shirt off, laid it down, took a picture of it, and on the shirt it said, from that mission trip, he died for us, so we live for him. And that was my slap in the face moment where God was saying, just, hey, dummy, come back to me. You know, you've been living how you want to live. It's led you to be more depressed than you've ever been, almost committed suicide during that time. Come back. And from that day, I've been all in.
Do you ever think about that moment, like when you're like frustrated or you're tempted to go, in sin and do things? Do you ever just think back to that moment of being like, oh no, this is what God saved me from? This was the moment that changed everything.
I should a lot more than I do,
Yeah.
but sometimes I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that moment, I think God is using you currently, and I'm so grateful for that story, and so grateful that He pulled you from that. I mean, I had a similar thing happen to me. Right when I was 21 years old, I was driving a side by side. I was drunk, had two people with me, and ended up hitting somebody else, flew people out, and it just had a whole thing. And then ended up having to go to court and all the things, and just the weight got too heavy, and I just was on my knees on Bessie Street in Cesar, Illinois, and I cried out and said, "God, I can't do this anymore," you know. And so I think back to that moment all the time because I'm like, no, that was the moment that changed everything. Like that was the moment, and now God is using that story that I have. He's taking my mess and making it my message. And that's what He's doing in your life. He's using you. He's taking that mess and He's making it your message. And so let's keep going here with your story. I know we got sidetracked a little bit, but I think this is good. Let's keep going with your story. So you meet Hannah, you get married, then what happens?
Well, so you're talking about the mess into the message, actually. So there's a little bit more pertinent information there. I was in nursing school during COVID time, and I had just finished my LPN year, got my license for LPN, and I started my RN year. And in the first semester of RN school, I needed an 86 in the class. Or no, I needed a 78.5 in the class, and I got a 78.43. So I was 0.02 points away from continuing on in the class. So I failed out of the class, which made me fail out of the whole program because you couldn't move forward if you didn't pass that class. So I failed out of the program, and that was such a shameful time for me because I was always the kid in school where like everything came so easy. And then all of a sudden it's like I just all of a sudden feel like a total idiot. And that was a really hard time in my life. It ended up leading partially. I was not a great guy during that time, but it ended up leading to the breakup of that one girlfriend. Thought that my life was over, all this stuff. And the crazy thing is like if that didn't happen, there's no chance I would be where I'm at right now because I wouldn't have ended up starting the ministry with my best friend that ended up me leading to meet my wife.
Yeah.
And then there's another story after my wife and I got married. We got pregnant that next year. We got married in December 2022. Middle of 2023, we found out that we were pregnant with our
You both
twin
got
daughters.
pregnant, or just her?
We did.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
I had the worst part of it.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
Anyway, so our daughters ended up being born early, 25 weeks and a day gestation. They both ended up passing away at different times, one at 2 days old and one at 45 days old. Right before that happened, I had gotten back into the nursing program, and I had started taking my summer courses to get back into the swing of things, basically, with the first semester that I had failed out of. And there was this investment opportunity that came up that I was like, I really believe that the Lord is leading me to do this investment opportunity. The stars aligned, and we were able to qualify for the loan for this like 4-unit Airbnb type thing. And I dropped out of nursing school. My parents, my grandparents, Hannah's family, they were all like, they weren't super forthwith about it, but they were ticked off that I did it and frustrated because I really worked hard to get back into the nursing program. And I dropped out, and then the investment opportunity fell through like a month later. The roof was horrible. It needed like $50,000 worth of work. We didn't qualify for the construction loan that we needed. So all of it fell apart, and we're like, what is going on? We found out 2 weeks after that investment opportunity fell through that our daughters were coming. And if I was in nursing school, I wouldn't have been able to be there with them for their short time in life. Yeah. So the Lord took something that seemed like a shameful, horrible, what are you doing, God moment. Yeah. And it led to me being able to be there full time with my daughters while they had their short life here on earth. Yeah. So it was really a blessing. It was something that the enemy tried to use for shame and misery ended up being one of the greatest blessings of my life.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's such a cool thing to look back on because you could look back on that and you just you could be filled with all this like just sadness, and I'm sure you still have that sadness obviously, but
Mhm.
it's you could look back and you're just like, man, I just have so much grief and so much sadness that's back there. But then you look at that, you're like, no, but God was there. Like that was a God wing. Like God was there through it all. And that's so comforting because even in the darkest times, God's there. He's there and he knows what he's doing. And then you took this horrible moment and then you said, hey, I'm gonna go share. I'm gonna go tell people about this. And then so tell us about that.
Yeah, it our daughters' names were Anna Faith and Hadassah Hope, and we got their middle names from 1 Corinthians 13:13. Faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love, coupled with 1 John 4:16, where it says God is love. We're going to raise them up, teaching them that we love them very much, but God is greater and we love Him more. And so after they passed away, my wife and I felt compelled to, it wasn't a full fledged ministry, but we went around, we called it Faith and Hope Ministries. And the purpose was to lead people to true faith and eternal hope in Jesus Christ. And we got to speak to, I don't know, somewhere between 10 and 14 ish churches. And these churches gave us the entire service to speak about how to have true faith and eternal hope in Jesus Christ. And we saw some awesome stuff through that. We'd seen couples that had been in a similar situation to us that lost children, that hated God and ran away from Him. Friends had heard about our story and they had come to the church, and then it seems as though they were set free from the anger and the hatred that they had toward God. It's all glory to Him. He set all of it up, and He was very gracious and awesome for doing so.
Yeah.
But but yeah, we saw, one of the blessings that we saw out of that is my brother's salvation. Um, One thing that we were clinging to, and I'll say this last point before I give it back to you, but one thing that my wife and I were clinging to is a specific promise of God whenever we were going through the trenches and we lost both of our daughters, and it was Romans 8:28, where it says all things work together for good. And don't be fooled into thinking that that scripture stops there, because a lot of Christians think that all things work together for good, and that's such a lie from the enemy. All things work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to His purpose. We knew we loved God. We knew we were called according to His purpose. So we knew, even in the midst of the heartache and the confusion and the sadness, that no matter what it looks like, God was going to take this horrifically awful, worst part of our lives and turn it for good somehow. And that's exactly what we saw Him doing in several different ways. Would I selfishly rather have my daughters? 100%. But now I get to have my daughters in heaven, and some more people get to join us. So it's a blessing
Yeah.
beyond what we
It's
deserve.
just it's so cool, and from the first time that we had met, I just see that all over your house and or all over your life, and it's so crazy how we met because I want to tell this story a little bit because it's kind of funny. I was at a duck cleaning, right? I was cleaning ductwork. What I do, that's my job, right? I was cleaning ductwork, and I was asking this lady if she goes to church somewhere, and she's like, "Yeah, I actually do go to," and I try to on every job, but it's hard. I'm human. I'm not great sometimes at doing that. But I had asked her, I'm like, hey, where do you go to church at? Like, and she's like, oh, well, we go to Pittsburgh Free Will Baptist. And she's like, oh man, if you don't like, if you can find the sermon, you got to listen to who spoke last week. It was this guy talking about and was telling your story, and I was like, oh well, I've seen someone else share that too. I need to look that up, and I looked it up, and it was you. And so I just reached out and like I felt compelled. I'm like, I need to ask them to come speak here, to come do the ministry opportunity here at Rooted. And this was like what 2 years ago, I think, right? And so I had just randomly reached out. I DM'd them and I was like, hey, you should come and speak at Rooted. And then you came at Rooted, and then now we're all friends, and then you've introduced me to so many people, and you've gotten invited, but we all hang out and went to game night at your house. It's just
Yeah.
crazy off of one duck cleaning.
Yeah, absolutely. Using the word friends fast and loose, but that's all right. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, easy with
No,
the
we're
F word,
friends.
right? Right. But it's just so cool. Again, like you just see God work in things that you didn't know He was going to work. Like I'm so grateful and blessed that a duck cleaning turned into this. Turned into a friendship like this, where we call each other and talk to each other and help each other out with our ministries. Like it's so amazing. Of a one little thing that I had no idea what happened because God was like, "Hey, I got this. I'm going to use this," and that's what we see all over your life, and He's continuing to do that. And I know that you're starting this new ministry. And I'd like to just talk about that a little bit about like, man, what's the whole thing there? What's it called? Like, how are you going to be involved? And kind of explain that a little bit.
Yeah. So I guess a lot to unpack there, but I'll try and keep it brief. Uh, if you don't mind me giving a little backstory here, I switched churches last October, started going to Little Chapel Church in Harrisburg, and they had a pro-life ministry that they were advertising on their bulletin, and we decided to get involved really quickly. And through that ministry, I met a missionary that's really awesome. You need to go look him up and see what his ministry is about. But his name is Scott Horde. He's rescued, I think, somewhere in the ballpark of 800 babies right now that were literally scheduled to die, and he rescued them from that, and he helps support them and their parents. But anyway, he set me up with a meeting with a guy from Charlotte, North Carolina named Brian Ottinger, and he is the director of expansion with a ministry called Love Life. And Love Life, their mission is to unite and mobilize the church to create a culture of love and life that will ultimately result in an end to abortion and the orphan crisis. And one thing that I was realizing along this process of getting involved with Love Life is that when my daughters were born 25 weeks in a day gestation by C-section, there was no magical knife and there was no magical incision that gave my daughters value. There wasn't a time limit that gave my daughters value. They were valuable. They were my nothing short of my precious, beautiful, and valuable daughters from the moment that I laid eyes on them, and really even before, all the way back to conception. But my point is to say that what I realized along this process of going to the pro-life ministry, going to the clinics, and reaching out, offering hope and help to moms, is that we don't get our value from how much money we have. We don't get our value from the color of our skin. We don't get our value from whether we're wanted or not. We get our value because we are made on purpose, with purpose, by a good and holy God, and we're made in his image. And that's where our value comes from. And that goes all the way back to the moment of conception, because I don't know if you've ever heard, and I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, and I'm sorry.
I like it.
But whenever we're all adults here, but whenever the sperm meets the egg and it forms a zygote or a fully formed human being genetically, there's what's called the spark of life, and scientists found that out recently. And it's where it's where life begins. And God is the author of life, as the scriptures say. So if we believe that that's true, then we have to believe that that spark of life is nothing less, nothing short of the hand of God orchestrating this life. And if it's true that God knew us from before the foundations of the earth, then he knew that child that he made on purpose, with purpose. So that child that's a human child deserves human rights. And I truly believe that the laws that we have in America right now that allows this horrific atrocity called abortion to go on is just absolutely horrific. So Love Life is a ministry that's not about shame and condemnation, but about healing and restoration. Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, because nobody should be, besides God Himself, should be able to say what human has value. But yeah,
So do you think that, I know this is like an important thing that we all should be passionate about, but do you think that because of your story that you have just like this extra drive of like, man, this is extra important to me. This is where kind of like the motivation kind of comes from.
yeah, absolutely. I definitely think that not that now don't get me wrong here, not that God wanted my children to die,
Right. That's yeah.
but I know what you mean,
Yeah.
and I have to clarify this often because I had to tell myself this too sometimes. But not that God wanted my children to die, but He took what the enemy meant for evil and He used it, turned it for
Yeah.
good. And I do believe 110% that God has used one of the darkest times in my life to bring about light, not only in my life, my family's life, but the lives of those around me and that I meet at the clinic, especially these moms that we're offering.
Good. So the ministry is called Love Life, right?
Yeah.
And so you are in the process of getting it started. And what's the? I know what they stand for, but what does that practically look like? Does that mean that they're going like? What would a day to day like? You started this ministry. What would the day to day look like?
Yeah. So essentially, what I would be doing is being it. If the Lord leads, I'm not in that phase yet, but if the Lord leads and we were to launch and I was to be the city director, which is the path, the trajectory that I'm on right now of Love Life Carbondale, the I lost my train of thought. Can you ask that one more
Yeah,
time?
so I was just asking about like if you end up like what would the day to day look like? Like if you get this, you're the city director, you're working at Love Life. Like what does that look like? What would your job be? Like how are you guys helping prevent abortions from happening?
Yeah. So there's a whole lot that goes into Love Life, and this is a part of what I love so much about Love Life is it's not just a ministry where they're out there with sidewalk teams offering hope and help to moms all day every day. That's a portion of what we do, but it's not the main focus. The main focus is to unite and mobilize the church. So I'll be connecting with pastors and across denominational lines. They will need to be evangelic. What am I trying to say? Evangelistic churches,
Yeah,
uh, but evangelical churches.
there
That's
you
the word
go.
I was
There you
looking
go.
for. Anyway, but across denominational lines, we're going to um, our founder in 2016. He was reading through the book of Nehemiah, and he got a vision for what Love Life was going to be, a portion of it. And it was hear, pray, go, and send. It's from the first three chapters of Nehemiah. You look at Nehemiah, he heard about the wall falling, he prayed and he fasted, and then he asked the king to go. So he found favor with the king. He was able to go, and then he did nothing. The scripture makes it sound like Nehemiah didn't lift a brick to get the wall built, but what he did was he connected people to build the wall. So that's essentially what we are there to do is to take the believers in the area, let them see what's happening, break their hearts, and then get them motivated to come out and to use a weapon of our warfare, which is prayer, to see these strongholds pulled down. And there's so much involved with it. We'll have sidewalk teams, we'll have a restored life program for people that have been involved in abortion, whether that's the mothers and the fathers directly, whether that's grandparents, uncles, siblings of the kids that had been aborted, anything like that. We help them find hope and healing. There's House of Refuge program that we do with churches where if they choose to be a house of refuge, then if there's a mom in their area, they are saying that they're going to step up and take care of that mother. There's different tiers of it. That's one of the tiers. The first tier is bridging the gap between expectation and reality, or what people think in reality. Because a lot of times, I saw a study recently that showed that 40% of the women that get abortions sat in an evangelical church the month of their abortion, and 54% of the women who get abortions identify as Christian. So the problem is almost just as much in the church as it is outside of the church.
Wow.
So these abortion minded moms are coming to church, they're sitting in the pews, they're not hearing anything about the struggles or the sins that they're thinking about, and they're not hearing anything about the abortion, and then they're going out and they're having these abortions. And what they're thinking a lot of times, with if they're in a desperate situation, they're thinking, I need to do this for whatever reason. The culture says it's okay, it's legal, so it must be okay. But I can never talk to my pastor about this, even though morally deep down I know that it's wrong. And the pastor is thinking, oh, well, they know that I'm pro life, so they should be able to
Yeah.
know that they can come into my office and talk to me anytime and I'll help them out. But it's there's a disconnect there.
Yeah.
So the first step in the most basic level of a house of refuge is they read Love Life's house of refuge statement, which bridges that gap. Talks about how abortion is not the unforgivable sin. If you're thinking about this, please come talk to me. We've got resources for you, all this stuff. It's a big long statement that I could talk to you about, but or show you later. But it even goes beyond and it goes deeper than that. So there's a level where we're addressing the church, getting them activated, basically providing tracks for the church to run on, and addressing the culture. We're addressing the moms, offering hope and help to them directly at the clinics. There's so much that Love Life does, which I think is absolutely amazing. And then I didn't even talk about how they try to get kids out of foster care and get them into adopted loving homes.
Yeah.
So there's a big emphasis and focus on that too. So
Yeah.
there's so much that goes into it, and the day to day will just kind of be working on all of those things.
Yeah, yeah, that's
So
good. So, what process are you at right now? Like, what stage? I know that you had said that this is what you felt like God was calling you to was love life, and you reached out, and then not. So now, where are you at?
yeah, so Love Life Carbondale has officially been greenlit, which was a several month long process because they do an amazing job there at Love Life vetting their people. But I'm in what's called the pre-missionary stage, so I'm going through trainings about Love Life, and uh, by the middle end of next month, I'll be in the missionary stage, which is where I'll go start engaging pastors, getting them to sign up to Adopt Weeks next year. And Adoption Week is that Hear, Pray, Go, Connect deal where we encourage churches. We let them hear about the tragic truth of what's happening in America, and we invite them to fast and pray with us on Wednesday. We invite them to a prayer walk on Saturday, and where we peacefully pray around the clinics, and then we offer them the ability to connect and go afterwards. So volunteer after the prayer walk. But I'll start engaging pastors to adopt those weeks starting next month. I'll start fundraising to get the mission off of the ground.
Yeah.
That's going to be a huge obstacle to overcome.
Yeah, that was my next question. Was someone that's listening, someone watching, someone here tonight, if they're like, man, something stirred up in me, like the Holy Spirit is like, feel like, man, I need to help. I need to do something. What can they do? What can they do to help you out? Help this ministry out.
Yeah. So right now, we'll be looking for future volunteers. We won't so much be looking for volunteers right now. What we definitely ask people to do is to pray for the mission, pray for the people who are going to go head first into this ministry and attack the enemy on our home turf. The enemy's going to hit us super hard, and we know that. We accept the risks involved with that. So if you could pray with us and for us, that would be absolutely amazing. And then with the financial aspect, if you or anybody you know that may feel led to financially partner with us, many people, they partner with us at $50 a month, some at $100 a month. Some people, business owners, go up to $4,000+ a month. Like, it's just whatever the Lord leads that person to do. But if you or anybody you know that may be interested in partnering with us in that way, or with praying with us or anything like that, I'd love a warm introduction to those people. Um, but the Lord's going to do it, and I have full faith and confidence in that. And if you don't mind me saying, once I move out of the missionary phase, we have enough money to launch, we have enough pastors on board to launch and do our 40-week journey of hope next year. Then we'll officially launch, and I'll go into city director phase, where I'll be doing the day-to-day, all of that stuff a little bit more regularly.
Do you have a specific goal right now, like a number you need to hit with how many pastors, or like a money goal, or is anything like that? Or are you still trying to figure that out?
So that will come here in the next couple of
Yeah.
weeks. That'll all get nailed down. It's going to take a lot
Yeah.
to get it done, accomplish the mission here. In starting, it's looking like we're going to have at least 2, maybe 3 full-time staffers that are working together to accomplish the mission, and then plus we've got a whole lot of things to create unity in the body, whether it's through T-shirts of the people that go to the prayer walks, or connection cards, or things like that. There's a lot of things that we will be looking at needing and having a decent sized budget to get done. And then also something that is in the works for Carbondale, which is really cool. The Lord provided, before it's even come about, a ultrasound machine
Wow.
for free, and the lady that's donating the ultrasound machine also has Christian techs that are familiar with the machinery that want to come out and donate their time to provide free ultrasounds for these moms. And
Wow.
we're going to be looking at needing the funds for a bus in the future, or a big van to put that on, so that the mothers can walk in across the street, not go into the abortion mill, but go in to see their baby for the first time.
Wow.
So I think we would probably defer that to a pregnancy resource center or some kind of local clinic that's not the clinic that they're trying to kill their baby at.
Yeah. Well, man, I love your heart and love that what you guys are doing, and just so grateful to be able to even be friends with you, and even though you don't want to say the friends word, right? But I'm grateful that we get to hang out and talk, and I get to see what God's doing in your life, and it's really encouraging. And so, if there's anything else you want to wrap up with, anything that they need to know before we leave?
Yeah, I would be remiss if I didn't say what a part of the reason why I'm so involved and so gung ho on being in this ministry, and it's the tragic truth of what happens in the United States. There's, on average, about, I crunched the numbers, they say 20,000, but it's closer to 22,000 babies die every single week in America. That's it's just over a million a year, but I mean that's several times over what my hometown growing up was. And they die every single week in Carbondale, Illinois, where there's 3 abortion clinics. 212 on average little baby girls and little baby boys will die this week in Carbondale, in our backyard. Well, that's where we would encourage the church to fast and pray, because we really want to see those strongholds pulled down. We don't want to use fleshly weapons of warfare, but we want to use ones that are mighty in God for the pulling down of strongholds, like prayer. And so, yeah, the best thing that you could possibly do is to get on your knees to pray, to fast a meal and spend that time dedicated to praying, going out to the clinics and praying peacefully, not protesting, not screaming or yelling, but if you feel so led, to offer hope and help, or just to pray if you don't have the words to say. But yeah, and then abortions are allowed up to birth in some states, and Illinois is one of those states. It doesn't happen at the clinics, they happen at like hospitals, because it's a more intensive thing, 2-day thing to abort a baby that's late term. But yeah, there's a whole lot of really gut wrenching, sickening stuff that happens in the United States every single day. So many babies die every day. And the reason why I'm in this ministry is because babies are dying, and I want to see that stop happening. And I hope and pray that the Lord makes way so that I can work myself out of a job with this.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. Well, before we leave, let's just pray.